Hello, I'm Teresa Dockery.
And I'm Melissa Belita.
We would like to thank you for allowing us to share this time with you. Our goal is to help you enrich the lives of dogs in your shelter so that they may have the best lives and opportunities both during their time at the shelter and after they have been adopted.
Time and time again, studies have shown that shelter dogs that receive some basic but well-planned care are mentally and physically healthier and happier during their shelter experience, adjust more easily to life in their new homes when they're adopted, and are less likely to be returned to the shelter for behavior problems and other issues.
The next time you walk through the kennels in your shelter, take a close look at the dogs in your care. Do they look happy and content, or are they anxious and confused? Note the behaviors of each individual dog. Are they barking for attention, sleeping, jumping, playing, hiding in a corner? These behaviors are an indication of how each dog is adapting to life in your shelter. Next, examine their surroundings. Can they see other dogs? What kind of stimulation do they have? Does the stimulation seem to have a positive or negative effect on the dogs in your shelter? While we cannot know what the future will hold for all these dogs, we can take the time to implement some simple yet essential steps that will get them started and help them continue down the path that will lead to the kind and loving forever home that we would like to see each and every one of them receive. Because we have taken it upon ourselves to be responsible for their care, for however long or short a time that may be, we must also acknowledge and accept responsibility for providing a quality of life that is not just acceptable, but one that is comfortable and encourages positive behavior. The life skills, if you will, that the dog will need to be accepted as and remain a part of his new family. Regardless of the policies in your shelter, it is understood that, sadly, some of these animals may not find their forever home for a variety of reasons. As temporary caretakers of these creatures, it is our responsibility to ensure that the dogs in our care are as comfortable and happy as possible, regardless of what the future may hold for them. The key word here is fresh. Regardless of whether you have an automatic watering device, like the one shown here, or you have to fill the bowls manually, each dog's water should be checked and bowls refilled several times throughout the day, and even more in extremely hot or cold conditions. Water bowls should be cleaned and sanitized often. Sheltered dogs and puppies do best when consistently fed a diet of high-quality dry kibble. Lower-grade dry food should be used sparingly, and only when higher-quality dry food cannot be obtained. Switching from brand to brand can cause digestive and gastrointestinal problems. Canned food should be used in small amounts and only when needed to stimulate appetite, assist puppies with the transition to dry food, administer medication, or when a dog's oral health prevents him from chewing dry food. Most quality dog foods have feeding guidelines printed on the bag, and unless the dog is suffering from illness or malnutrition, the amounts provided on these guides will usually suffice. If you or your staff is unsure of how much food to feed a dog, ask your local veterinarian to provide you with a brief workshop on nutrition. Regardless of the type of food or feeding schedule you use, be sure that the dogs are fed an adequate amount of fresh food twice daily. Young puppies will need to be fed more often. Once again, consult your local veterinarian for guidance. One thing is certain, overfeeding dogs does not benefit anyone, least of all your kennel cleaning staff and the dogs themselves. Dogs are highly social creatures in need of lots of positive interaction. They will suffer mentally as well as physically if not provided with appropriate amounts of daily positive interaction. Why positive interaction? Because not all interaction we have with our dogs in our facilities is beneficial. Some forms of inappropriate interaction can even damage a dog to the point where he may be deemed no longer adoptable. Allowing a puppy to interact with other puppies that are abnormally dominant or aggressive is not positive interaction. A walk with a harsh, untrained volunteer who drags the dog or allows the dog to drag her around the compound for 5 minutes before shoving the dog back into its kennel should not be considered positive interaction. Consistent exposure to unhealthy forms of interaction can prevent a dog from being adopted or from remaining with the adoptive family. What does qualify as positive interaction? Quiet petting, a calming massage, or grooming by a kind volunteer should be considered positive interaction. So should supervised playtime with another dog about the same age and size who knows how to play nice. Also, training walks with trained staff and/or volunteers who know how to give praise and positive reinforcement for desired behaviors and humane, effective reprimands for undesired behavior. Calming exercises, such as those demonstrated here, or control games played either in the dog's kennel or in another appropriate space by qualified staff or volunteers, can work wonders on an overstimulated dog. Quiet music and calming scents or pheromones can also help reduce stress and increase quiet time. An even better alternative may be to place certain dogs with qualified, trained foster care providers where they can receive the individual care, training, and monitoring they may need prior to adoption. Fearful and timid dogs should be allowed some extra time to adjust and then assigned to qualified volunteers or foster care providers for additional socialization. Moving forward in a calm, attentive manner is a natural and necessary pack behavior. Dogs that are prevented from engaging in this ritual will often suffer mentally and physically, and they will sometimes replace this behavior with other behaviors, some of which may be destructive or otherwise detrimental to the well-being or placement of the dog. Teaching a dog to move forward with a human companion in a calm, respectful way and walk nicely on a leash are skills all your staff and volunteers should learn. This is often the first step in training and perhaps the one thing that will convince that wonderful forever family that this is the dog for them. While we touched on some of the forms of positive stimulation and exercise in Step 2, we feel it is important to stress the difference between interaction and exercise. Dogs are much happier and healthier if provided with both. If you provide interaction and no exercise, the dog's physical health will deteriorate. If you provide exercise without interaction, the dog's mental state is likely to suffer and the dog may become hard to handle and out of control. Allowing a dog to spin, jump up and down for hours, or bark chronically will provide the dog with exercise, but these behaviors will not only significantly lower the chances of the dog being adopted, they can also open the door for other, more dangerous and annoying problem behaviors. Positive interaction with other living creatures is a necessity, but the dogs in our care can also get positive forms of stimulation and exercise when we are not available to participate or supervise. Providing toys is one option. Some shelter favorites include tennis balls, nylabones, and kongs. They're tough and hardy, and the kongs can be stuffed with kibble or small healthy treats, providing the dog with hours of stimulation, exercise, and entertainment. Even though rawhide sometimes gets a bad rap, dogs really love it, and it can be useful for providing exercise and positive stimulation at night when the shelter is closed and when you do not otherwise have the time to interact with the dogs. Dogs who are kenneled with other dogs or who guard their resources are the exception. They should never be given rawhides while unsupervised. The larger pressed rawhides are safest. A kennel or cage containing one dog, one bed, and two bowls does not provide adequate stimulation. If your dogs are destroying their bowls and beds, chances are they're in need of a little guidance and some positive stimulation. Ideally, kennel dogs should be walked and exercised at least 15 minutes twice daily. At a very minimum, kennel dogs must be walked or otherwise permitted out of their kennels at least 3 or 4 times each week, just to maintain a healthy state of mind. Dogs who are not provided with at least a minimal amount of exercise and opportunities to engage in natural pack behavior, like moving forward, are at a much greater risk of suffering from behavioral issues such as aggression, chronic barking and jumping, destructive behavior, and obsessive-compulsive disorders like paw licking or tail chasing. For a dog that is caged or kenneled long-term, nothing beats a good, long, supervised romp in a safe, fenced area. If your facility does not have such an area, consider holding a fundraiser or soliciting donations to construct an exercise pen. The joy you will see on the dogs' faces will make it well worth your time and effort. One final word on stimulation. Dogs that have not yet been spayed or neutered tend to endure additional stress when